And we're back with more exciting adventures of the Incredible Hoax. I am Chris.
I am Mark.
We're trying out a new webcam, so this looks different. Hopefully, it looks different, like in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a webcam I just purchased. It's not too expensive, like $50, 40 something bucks.
Okay.
My day job, my social media cowboys, we're going to be doing some YouTube stuff for ourselves.
Cool.
So me and DJ got matching webcams so that they would look consistent. All right, well, that's boring. All right, so let's keep moving. I could see immediately Mark was like,
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
you're fixing to do plenty of talking. You're fixing to get plenty excited, though, because we're going to go, let's try and not go like an hour, but we're going to take our time with this one a little bit. We are going to explore what? What are we exploring today?
Are we going to do a massive spoiler?
Well,
Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker.
Okay, do we want to do that spoilers from the get-go, and I'll mark it as so? Or do you want to do a spoiler-free and then do a mark?
We already kind of did a somewhat spoiler-free.
This is a spoiler-filled review show. No holds barred.
No holds barred.
This is your last chance. This is your warning right now. If you're watching this and haven't seen it and you don't want spoilers, don't listen. Turn it off right now in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. Hit it.
Wow, here we go. All right. We use the 4-star rating. At least I do. I gave it 2.5 out of 4. All right.
I prefer the 4-star.
And
It's the
I
Roger
do
Ebert
too.
rating.
And so 2.5 stars is what I gave it.
Which
I wrote
means
down some
a little
questions
better
to
than
give
middle.
to give at least my thoughts some kind of clarity.
Well, staying on the Roger Ebert or the Siskel and Ebert
Mm-hmm.
ranking, which was what we were raised on. You
Sure.
or I were raised on the Siskel and Ebert rating method, which was 4 stars
Yes.
and thumbs up or down.
Right.
So 2.5 has always been considered down still,
Right.
and 3 and up is when you considered up.
Correct.
So you're saying thumbs down, 2.5 stars to Rise of Skywalker.
Yes.
Okay, just for clarity.
Yes. Well, okay. One of the questions I thought, does the film grab you early? You have this opening scroll, and then you go right into with Kylo Ren, and ends up in Palpatine's lair. You know, it's kind of how the movie begins, right?
Yeah, I also had a Peter Jackson opening with the use of slow-mo and whatnot. He's basically Kylo Ren slashing through orcs.
Oh yeah. There
in
was
slow
that.
motion.
Yeah, so he could get this kind of this old
He's on a mission.
Sith artifact, which is basically like a compass, and lets you know where to find this old world of the Sith.
Yeah, he's on a mission, and he's killing everything in his way to get it
So
done.
that begins that way. So that you're like, okay, that's a very different way to open a Star Wars.
It was
film.
unique.
So not necessarily a problem there in terms of doing that different. But everything just kind of like you're kind of like, oh, okay, because here it is, the third film, and right away it's like we're having to kind of, and also the second film was so bad, we're having to like really introduce a lot of stuff late, you know, and the idea of like, well, Palpatine is really back, and that was the biggest surprise. That was one of my questions, like, what was one of the biggest surprise of this film? For me, it was the fact that it really committed to that Palpatine is the bad guy here in this film. That was that's not necessarily a bad decision that they made. I just wasn't expecting it, and I thought he would be like seen in a vision, you know, kind of like a Sith ghost. You know, we got Jedi ghosts like Ben Kenobi, for example, but I thought, well, Palpatine will just show up as a Sith ghost or something like that because Kylo's gotten so evil, that kind of a thing, and they don't do that at all. So that really kind of caught me off guard. They probably wise not to explain too much how the man actually survived being thrown down a shaft of the Death Star.
There's a lot of that in this movie.
And you're like,
you're
but
to
the movie's
accept a lot of it.
Yeah, the movie's like, please don't ask too much about that. Just go with it. Like, okay. But from there, there's a lot of scenes where it's like, oh my gosh, that character's dead. Oh, okay, he's not dead. Now he's dead. Oh, he's still alive. Okay, there's a lot of that back and forth going on. That kind of is disappointing, And they certainly did it with Chewie. Kylo ran like 3 or 4 times. Where oh, Kylo's dead. Oh no, he's not dead. They did that several times with him.
Yeah.
And when Hux gets shot, you're like, well, okay, so he's gonna come back, right?
Yeah.
He's the one character. They're like, no,
He
he's
actually does
He's
die.
actually gone. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was odd that Rey ends up confessing to Kylo at one point that she would have took his hand, but as Ben. And for some reason, that didn't ring true for me because she never knew Ben Solo.
Well, I don't think that's what you meant. I understand your point, but I don't think that's what you meant.
Yeah, and I thought
She was meant the good side of him.
I understand, but it's just
She's being more figurative.
yeah, it's just a problem I've had with this trilogy. The danger of kind of making it up as you go along is stuff like that. It's like that needed to be more earned, I guess, maybe, or make more sense, or be more clear. Her decision on that. It was a very odd choice. Because you had a lot of things in this movie where it's like, which way are they going to go? Or are you who are the parents going to be? Who's Rey going to end up with? Because you felt like they were going to try to like do something there, and then how are they going to do the with Leia, her dying in real life? How are they going to wrap that up? So you had these kind of questions you kind of were looking at, and that kind of stuff is a little bit can be distracting for fans because you're wanting to see that they do it well, and I think all that was sensitively handled. I didn't have an issue there, particularly the Leia stuff. That if you didn't know it, it really didn't feel like oh. You can tell that's where she's inserted. I didn't feel like any of that kind of stuff.
Okay.
It felt natural. So that's one kudo I want to give
the Leia
the movie.
stuff.
Yeah, the Leia
Okay.
stuff that kind of worked for me.
Okay,
yeah,
go ahead.
I'm going to yield to you because I've said quite a bit.
Well, I have to admit, the Leia stuff, that's probably one thing, like, I think you and I are pretty much split on the movie. There are points that we agree on. I erred or defaulted to the good side of it, and you erred or defaulted to, like, we both acknowledge a mistake, and I'm like, oh, it's okay, and you're like, no, it's not.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay, all right.
But the Leia one, it's interesting. That's one of the things I fall on the negative side, and you probably feel. It felt a little bit. Remember the South Park episode where what Chef Isaac Hayes had left the show?
Yeah.
They did the episode where they just used all of his old lines.
Right.
They're like, yes, no, and it was like you could tell they edited it in such a way where it felt like they just spliced it in.
Yeah.
Because the camera angles were always, master reverse. Most all of her shots were master reverse. So it was on Leia, over the shoulder on Rey.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much every scene with her was that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it was the wider shot, they could have used a bi-double with some effects work on the face. But anytime she was talking, it was always like master reverse, on her, over the shoulder, on the other. So it felt a little bit like, okay, they're just cutting around what they got to make this work. To me, it felt that way.
I mean, in reality, they were. I mean, they weren't hiding that. They were saying, "Hey, we've got footage here. We think we can make this work."
Well, yeah. I mean, it's obvious that it was what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I could tell. And hopefully, I wasn't just looking for it, because I wasn't looking for flaws in the movie. I was just watching it.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, it grabbed my attention because it's like, okay, master reverse on each time she talks. Okay, well, that's all they could do with that. And so I noticed it.
Yeah.
But I mean, God, she died. I mean, it's a miracle she's even in the movie. Period. So, thank God.
Well, yeah.
And she's like a major part too. She's not like a minor.
Right.
How they make a major part out of her? It's crazy.
Yeah, that's why I say they deserve kudos the way they did it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a shot early. In fact, I think it's the first shot we see of her, and it's clearly the Force Awakens shot.
Uh-huh.
But then most of the other shots look like they were last. So there was some Last Jedi outtakes.
Okay.
Because in Last Jedi, you could tell she had aged a bit. You know, you could tell that there was a bit of an age difference there.
Uh-huh.
But I only noticed that early on. The rest of the film, it was pretty consistent, the look she had. So, but other than that, like I say, it was such a difficult thing to try to pull off. Anyway, I remember Fast and Furious when they had Paul Walker. There were scenes in that movie. Is it Fast 8, the one that?
I never saw those.
Well, it might be Fast 7. I can't remember. Anyway. His brother, Paul Walker's brother, stood in for some shots, and you could always tell when it was his brother running, because I mean they just the way the guy ran
was different.
Was different than Paul's. You could tell.
Was Paul like more athletic and he's not?
Yeah, you could tell that Paul was a lot more athletic, and the other was a little more tentative the way he ran.
Well, I don't know. The other guy wasn't an actor, was he?
No, as far as I know, he wasn't. Yeah. You know, but I mean. It got the job done, you know, but you could tell there were scenes like that's the brother,
I
you
see.
know, yeah.
Well, moving on from Leia, because I mean they made lemonade lemons, so I mean kudos they got. I mean they made a major part. What are you gonna do? Back to the story itself. So let's go ahead and jump on the big spoiler. Let's just get it out of the way.
Okay.
Rey is the granddaughter of Palpatine. Yes, you heard that correctly. Rey is the granddaughter of Palpatine. Never, ever has there ever been referenced ever that Palpatine had a wife, had children through artificial insemination. Nothing has ever been suggested in any way, shape, or form of any sort of family or lineage or anything that he has created. But they just went ahead and just dropped it in there that the people that left Rey in the desert were her parents, hiding her and on the run from Palpatine's henchmen, who was beating the desert looking for him, looking for her rather, and Rey is all powerful because my understanding is she basically has all of the power of the Jedi or Sith, whichever she chooses to go. She could be all fucking Sith or all of the Jedi. And she's like a big giant thing of those two. And depending on which way she decides to go, she will be all of that. Right?
Well, I mean, yeah, there's a scene in the third act where Palpatine mentions that this happens once every 1,000 years, and he was referring to both, you know, both the power that Kylo has and her, and it's so interesting to have something like that major, but come so late in that trilogy. But that's okay. I knew this movie was going to have hell because Last Jedi just did them no favors.
Well, that to me is the thing to talk about. But I've been trying to just get through the normal review stuff. But that's where I really want to get and dig into the weeds. But let's finish the plot stuff.
Yeah, on the plot stuff, I thought a lot of that was valid. You know, I didn't have that much of an issue with some of that stuff. I just thought it could have been done better.
What stuff? What do you mean with that stuff?
Well, we were talking about the stuff in relation to, you know, Palpatine being, you know, she's the great, you know, granddaughter of she's the granddaughter of Palpatine, and there being so much about the Sith story, you know, with Palpatine and him surviving the Death Star of Return of the Jedi. All that was interesting. You know, Snoke, we pretty sure was a clone. And how many clones of Snoke did he use?
Yeah, there's a scene where there's like all these Snoke heads in these tubes and things.
Yeah, so apparently this has been that was his puppet of his vessel. Yeah. And apparently he was able to put his essence in these Snokes or just other people. Because that's what he tries to do. In the end, he's wanting Palpatine. He's wanting her to go through forth with this ritual, and then his essence then goes into Rey.
So it's kind of like Chinatown.
So,
Oh Lord, oh Lord. There's even a scene where the Emperor takes
record
his,
skip.
the Emperor takes his hand and goes like this over Ray's eyes. Oh, that was always the creepiest part of Chinatown to me. Was the way his hand goes. It kind of goes like this. It goes over her eyes. He kind of scoops her up with John Huston's old long ass bony fingers. Like, oh Lord, come here, child. All right, enough Chinatown jokes.
Okay.
Back to the plot. What the things I liked.
Okay.
Or maybe the thing I should do things I didn't like. Maybe it's easier to say things because they'll segue back and forth.
Okay.
I loved the part that Leia had, as we just talked about. I thought they did very, very good with it. I loved the relationship between Poe and Finn. They make a buddy team throughout a lot of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
If you felt like C-3PO was underserved in any of the new trilogy, well then there's plenty of C-3PO back for you.
Yes.
He has a major part, and I thought all that stuff with C-3PO was very good. And even Anthony Daniels is a quick shot as the gunner on the Falcon in the final battle.
Yeah.
So you actually get to see Anthony Daniels' face in a shot.
And Wedge, the actor, well, it's Ewan McGregor's uncle.
Or was it Wedge as the gunner?
But yeah, Wedge.
Wedge was the
makes
gunner?
makes a cameo. But I thought the guy they showed before Wedge was Anthony Daniels.
Okay, well I thought the guy on the Falcon gun was Anthony Daniels, but now I'm confused. Maybe Wedge was shit. Now I'll have to watch it again. They're both in there.
They're both. They showed both
Yeah.
shots, like one after the
Okay.
other.
There's like a whole bunch of shots of these people at the big final battle when everybody shows up. Basically, the ending is Independence Day meets Avengers Endgame is the ending. Because basically, just like at the end of Avengers Endgame, all of the comic book superheroes to this point show up to fight against Thanos and his horde. And in this movie, everyone in the galaxy shows up to whoop ass on the new final order that's been established.
Yeah. Yeah.
What? Oh no. And they have to and just like Independence Day, they have to take out one central control, and also Phantom Menace did the same thing, and then that will stop all of the ships at once.
Yeah.
So that's basically the big end of the movie. So I liked what they did with the buddy team, C-3PO. Chewbacca has some really good moments. My favorite moment of the movie, hands down. I cried. I don't know if you got emotional.
Oh yeah.
It was when Leia dies and Chewbacca finds out.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the best scene. I thought of the movie was
He just collapses.
Chewie finding out about Leia, and he just absolutely,
he's devastated.
He's devastated, and Poe and Finn, they're like they back off because they see so much grief, they're not sure how to help him. So it was it's a very powerful scene.
Yeah.
That's one of those. Some people will smirk and say it's fan service. Like, well,
fuck it, it's fan service.
So it's like, well, so be it, man. It's if
they fucked us around enough, give us one thing.
It's like, look, these characters is the whole point, and that's some of the things I've griped about with the sequel trilogy. These characters we've known got established years ago,
40 years.
So we've known these characters, and so the rush to go, oh, we've got all these wonderful, iconic characters, and it's such a problem. Oh,
let's kill them.
Let's kill them all for convenience, so we can get to these other characters. Like, why all the haste? Why? Who says you have to kill off the mentor? Yes, it can still be Rey's story, but who said you had to kill the mentor off?
This goes back to a problem.
It just those things like that kind of rubbed me wrong from the start, to be honest with you. But there are some things I like about the film. I'll let you continue your list there.
Ray had a lot more to do. I felt like I know Ray more after this movie. Kylo has an arc for sure over the 3 movies.
Yeah.
Um, the problem I had with Kylo in this movie was more of a practical problem, not so much a what's the word I'm looking for? Not so much this with what they did with him in terms of the spirit of him or the arc. I had problems with the logistics because that fucker just showed up randomly all the time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's like, well, how did he, how, where was he? Should have been a shot of him like landing or something. And there's a lot of that in the movie where there's not a lot of expository shots for certain things that should have needed it. For instance, particularly there's a scene where the Death Star remnants that are on the planet of Endor, not the moon of Endor, but the planet of Endor.
Right.
And they have to go to the remnant of this Death Star to get this map thing.
That Sith artifact.
The Sith artifact to find him, which, by the way, is very much out of the video game type stuff.
Okay.
Anyway, she goes to go get it, and Kylo just shows up.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say when Finn and this other chick are going to go catch up with them, they say, hey, let's get a skimmer and go. But there's no shot of them like docking and then getting onto the stars. They just show up. Which, I mean, common sense, and they did say they're going to take the skimmer, and common sense says they did that when you see them.
Yeah.
But it's like there's like missing visual information. And I think a lot of the problems I have with the movie come back to that. The problems of this movie reminded me a lot of Die Hard 2. When you first saw Die Hard 2, or at least for me, I loved it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was amazing. I thought it was like, wow, this is how you do a sequel. Die Hard 1's a classic, nothing can beat it, but good God, good job. But the more you think about it, there's these major plot holes and logic gaps.
Right.
And if you start adding up the math, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
This to me is one of those movies where if you start doing the math, it's not going to work. If you just go in the moment, it feels right. If it feels good, do it.
Yeah.
But if you do the math, it doesn't necessarily work.
Well, they decided, the screenwriters for this one, that they would use that whole Kylo Ray link from Last Jedi. And they decided to use that.
That's a thing.
So that becomes that's very much a thing in this movie.
Major plot device.
So a lot of times he's able to like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, you're in my chamber? Okay, and what are you up to? Okay, well, I know to go to Endor now.
Yeah.
You know, and it was that kind of a thing. But when you do that, we're so used to Star Wars that not being a thing. And but now this sequel trilogy, it is a thing. So when he shows up, you're like, well, how did he? Oh, the whole link thing. Okay, all right, whatever. And then at one point, her being able to teleport the lightsaber. I mean, that was a big stretch. That was a big stretch.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. I guess we'll have to go with it because you set it up earlier because he was able to teleport.
He got her necklace.
That necklace artifact. Yeah. So it's like it's been established, but it's still just the idea that you're doing that and never did that before. Yeah. It just seemed, I don't know, but see, that's the thing. When you explain something after the fact, it becomes hard. It's like, guys, who likes to see a movie a second time? And it's like, well, now I know what you're going. Okay, I'll enjoy it better. That's kind of an annoying way to do it because it's like, oh, because of the 1,000 years of all that knowledge, that's why they're able to do all these little things we've never seen before. And well, you don't know that till like the last 5 minutes of the movie.
They have never used the Force to heal people until this movie.
Right. In like games and stuff they do. Like role playing games, it's a big thing.
Oh, role playing,
yeah,
okay.
It's big, yeah.
But let me do a quick little sidetrack here.
Okay.
The Mandalorian, which has been premiering every Friday,
right?
This week premiered Wednesday.
Yes.
And if you watched it, which I did,
I did too. Yeah.
What did it do? It introduced that he could use the Force to heal. And I was like, well, they've never done it before. This Baby Yoda must be the complete badass. And then I go the next day to see the movie, and they heal the Force. I'm like, them sons of bitches.
Yeah.
They knew they had to get this episode out before the movie because people were like, "What the fuck? You can't do that."
You can't. Yeah, exactly.
And
yeah,
they
that's
knew.
a good point. Yeah.
They knew.
Yeah.
They knew. Somebody in some meeting said, "Hey, man, might want to like move this up." Of course, I know they didn't want Mandalorian to compete against their own movie in the theater and stuff like that, but
yeah,
give them a jump start.
That's also a brilliant, that's a brilliant point.
But anyway, they introduced force healing in the Mandalorian just the day before the movie used it, and I was like, "That scene."
Yeah.
I think there are major plot holes in the movie. There are logic gaps. You have to just accept a lot of things. Deus ex machina or Deus ex machina is used a lot in this movie. I don't know how you fucking say it. Deus ex machina is used a lot.
Okay.
And but on to the good things for me. If you or do you want to do your bad stuff still? You got a lot more bad stuff, I think, than me. And then we'll get to the whole like Last Jedi slash.
Well, just in general, one last thing. I'll say in general, for me, which is one of the reasons why, if I felt like this didn't happen too many times in the movie, I could see myself giving it a 3 stars. Which that would be a thumbs up.
Make sure we're still recording. We're using this new camera. I got to check.
Yeah. We got to check. There was with these moments of being caught up into the corner. You know, you just mentioned it. Like, we're backed into a corner, and then they would get out of it. But it would always be something that would happen that's really not our heroes doing it. It would be someone else. I mean, like the idea that Poe at one point in the big battle.
Yeah, no, they do.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to do. Well, you don't ever want your hero to be like that. But Lando comes and saves the day, and you're like, yeah, but it was all off screen.
Well, to offset.
So there's a disconnect there. So it's hard to emotionally get invested when that thing was so. It was off screen. There's a disconnect.
Which you and I know you, and you would rather have seen Poe be Aragorn versus all the orcs in Return of the Jedi or
Yes.
Return of the King.
Return of the King. Yes.
Return of the King, and go for Frodo. Bucket.
Hell
and
yes.
just go for it.
There you go.
That's what you would have wanted.
Absolutely.
And I have to admit, that's what I would have wanted.
Yes.
But they didn't. They went more.
Yeah.
They went more practical.
Well,
maybe
I think they went into it. They stayed steadfast to a theme of if we show some bravery, stand up to this guy.
Hope will make it happen.
That if we lead, people will follow.
Right.
You know, people will join us. If we just have to lead. They will come. And so that was the theme. And you heard Poe say it several times. So we got to see it in practice. But in reality, you're still like, these are your protagonists. So emotionally, it's more satisfying for him to say, okay, guys, I have an idea. And then they execute that idea. And that's what turned the tide.
Yeah, and
that's more exciting to me.
Where Aragorn was more like it was just a last gasp, just sheer bravery. Let's just go. Let's just start wailing and see what happens.
Yes, maybe we can distract the bad guys long enough to give Frodo and Sam a chance to get. There's a Mordor.
There was a scene in Walking Dead in an episode where Rick and they're at Victoria and they get overrun with zombies, and they're pretty much just SOL, and he finally just says F it, and he just goes in there and he just starts hacking, and then everybody sees him just going at it, and they join in, and the next thing you know, just sheer willpower, they turn the tide.
Yeah.
And then 2 seasons later the series goes to shit. Anyway, but but in that moment, Rick just willpowered them.
Yes.
Out of a situation. Aragorn willpowered them out of a situation. Well, other shit happened at the right time for Aragorn. But anyway, but still, you didn't get that willpower moment, that triumph of the not that triumph of your own spirit. It was triumph of our spirit. It was more of a democratic solution as opposed to a heroic.
Like I said, it was true to the theme. The theme that they were establishing in that film. They stayed true to it, but I don't think it was the most exciting choice.
Let's segue. So we let's turn. I'm gonna segue with this though.
Okay.
When the movie's watched, the opening crawl sucks. The opening crawl is the worst opening crawl of all the movies. The thing, it's the worst crawl of all, and
Yeah.
that's saying something.
Yeah.
It is the worst opening crawl of every Star Wars movie. Not even close. It's
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, it's not good.
And in fact, when I saw it, I was like, wow, maybe if I take the whole serial approach, maybe that's giving a lot of grace and that's stretching it.
Yeah, that when your first three words are "the dead speak," you're
Yeah.
like what?
Yeah, it's terrible. It's really bad. And then you go through all the adventures, and they're going back and forth, and I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it, but I'm not in love with it. I'm having a good time, but I'm taking it for what it is. The moment the movie turned for me, and I was like, "Fuck yeah, I'm in on this movie," and I was sold. Okay, all right, I'm trusting y'all now. I'm letting my guard down, and you got me.
Mm-hmm.
There's a scene where Chewie's kidnapped or captured, and she force grabs the ship, and she's holding it, trying to pull it back down, and then Kylo is there, and he force grabs the ship. He's trying to pull it his way, and they're pulling on the ship, and they're both using their power, and then all of a sudden, she force lightnings it, and she blows the ship up.
Right.
When she force lightning it, I was like, all right. I don't know exactly where they're going with this, but this is a left field element that I like, and it's not one of those shitty Ryan Johnson subverting my expectations things. It was not that.
You were genuinely intrigued.
I was genuinely like, this is a cool development, and
Okay.
it was blue, The lightning was blue.
Yes, it was blue.
And I was like, okay, maybe she's like the Jedi can do fucking lightning now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is what we're doing here.
Sure.
Is we're taking the next evolutionary step of the Jedi. So I'm like, fuck it. I'm in, man. Let's go. Let's see what's happening. And of course, I knew there was going to be a whole scene where they're going to go rescue Chewie. So I'm like, fuck this. All right, man, on mission. Let's go. That's where the movie turned for me. And it really, to me, what I liked, I hate to say this because I don't think you can watch this movie and or judge it as a movie. And that goes against my normally I would never say that. I would normally say you need to judge every movie on its own, even if it's part of a larger story. It has to work as itself. This is the exception. Because the fucking Last Jedi was so bad, and this is the third part of a story.
Yes.
I do give it a lot of grace, and I watch it as the third part of a larger story. That it's like the next episode of a 10-episode season of a show. So I watched it that way, and I gave it that grace, and I totally loved it because it, point by point, says fuck you to Ryan Johnson and The Last Jedi. Now, I'll stop, and I've had the floor for a minute. I'll give you your due here.
We were going to go into, I guess, positives, I guess. Well, for starters, I Oscar Isaac as Poe, he gets a lot to do finally in this film. Really funny.
We're going to do positives, but also we're going to cover the whole Last Jedi /
That whole thing, yeah.
So do your positives and then go.
Okay,
go
I'll
into
segue
that.
back to that. Okay. This movie's humor, it was much better over Last Jedi, by the way. The humor, the jokes and all that. And a lot of it wasn't like someone saying something stupid or bad puns or something like that. It was just little looks, There's a scene where he just looks at this girl, a former flame, of his,
Yeah.
and then he gives her this kind of look like, well,
Hey.
we just won the battle,
Like-
kissy poo, and she's like,
Nope.
no, but it's really funny, and it was just done in looks. So the subtle stuff like that was appreciated. For sure, and like I said, I think he's just a really good character, and of course, I think he's a great actor.
Yeah, Oscar Isaac is he's going to end up with an Oscar eventually.
Oh yeah,
He's one of those guys.
yeah.
He gets an Oscar eventually.
He's great, and I thought he was a tremendous asset to this trilogy. So that's there. I really like Adam Driver, the actor. some of the choices, like I said, with Kylo, I wouldn't have gone that way. But if you were going to do the arc thing and go the redemption road, the way they did it, and we hadn't even talked about it yet. The cameos, no one's talked about it. They did a great job of
and no one saw
keeping
it
this.
coming, yeah.
No one saw this coming, and no one, as far as I know, this didn't get leaked at all on the internet.
I didn't know it was going to happen at all.
So again, reminder: this is spoilers now. I don't want to spoil it for
But
anybody.
well, by the way, I purposely avoided spoilers up into the movie, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't. If it had been a thing, I wouldn't have known about it.
Right. I tried my best also to say spoiler free, and I was, thank goodness. But yeah, to have that special cameo, I'll just say, unexpected, was really satisfying.
By who? Who was it? Say it. It's spoilers. We already said Rey is Palpatine's granddaughter.
Yeah. The fact that Harrison Ford appears as Han Solo to help bring back Kylo from the dark side back to the light side as his son again was a very powerful moment. So that was that scene, and the Chewie grieving scene or my two favorite scenes. A third favorite scene involved Poe telling the others when they find out he's a spice runner. He's like, "Well, you were a stormtrooper, you were a scavenger. We can do this all day." That was awesome. So they had some genuinely funny moments.
Well, that was the thing. The movie finally had Star Wars. One of the beauties of Star Wars, the original trilogy, and it was lost big time in the prequels.
Yeah.
That I think they tried to bring back in here in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Was grit. Like nothing. They're not perfect. They're real people. They mess up. They do.
Yeah.
They make not so good choices and things. They're like people.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of the original trilogy is like, you know, Han runs after stormtroopers, and then they turn, and then he runs around the corner, and there they all are waiting on him, and fuck, you know, and Han shoots first, and you know, they were not pristine protagonists. They weren't white, you know, knights in shining armor.
And Finn, by the way, they let Finn actually like advance as a character.
Yeah, he's more mature.
So I really enjoyed all that. I was very satisfied with
Finn
that.
was great. Poe was great.
Yeah.
I even Rose was redeemed. Fucking miracle of miracles. I don't want Rose to be murdered anymore.
Yeah.
Rose was fine. She served a purpose.
Yeah.
But you notice like they dropped the whole that I love you, Finn. It's like fuck it, that didn't happen.
Well, they did that across the board. They decided no one was hooking up with anybody.
All right. Well, segue now into your Last Jedi slash. What are your thoughts on undoing and how it handled the Last Jedi?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts there? Across the board, they did a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff. Well, there's the scene where Rey has gone back to the Jedi Island, that old island where Luke perished, and he ends up showing up and giving her a rally speech, and he actually raises the X-wing fighter.
Luke does, yeah.
Yeah, Luke does, and in that moment, I'm thinking, but that's what I wanted you to do in Last Jedi. So there's things like that. Is this movie, and for at least half the picture, felt haunted by Last Jedi, and we knew that was going to happen to a point. But that scene in particular, I couldn't help but look at that and go, but that's what Luke was supposed to do. Luke was supposed to do that in Last Jedi, raise the X-wing, rejoin the fight, and have a little moment of where he's fighting again in action as a flesh and blood. You can go ahead and kill him off at some point, but just let him rejoin the fight because Luke does not quit. Just the principle needed to be served. And this film tries in its way to kind of make it where he's still shepherding Rey. And
just as Obi-Wan had done him.
Yeah, and I could go with that, I suppose, to a degree. I still feel left wanting on the Luke thing, but there's reminders of the Last Jedi going, Yeah, they had to. Okay, the Rose has basically been relegated to a very much a side character in this film.
Yeah.
That's definitely
Yeah,
Ryan Johnson. You don't know what you're doing.
Apparently, her and
She's
Finn
not
had
that
a talk,
important. Yeah, and she's
and they're
over
just
there.
friends. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Finn was like, "Hey, girl, we just friends."
They just relegated that over there.
He friend zoned her, big time.
Yeah, getting them together, just that alone, to having the like, well, we need to have our
Well,
our team, just like the
Excuse me.
original trilogy had. We'll get their four heroes. Now we'll have our four heroes together finally, and so that was also as a big reaction to Last Jedi, having them all split up and everything. So that was there, certainly there. If I thought about it long enough, I could think of some other stuff. But there's definitely, to your point, if your point is, hey, were they doing things to kind of counteract Last Jedi? Of course they did. Yeah.
Well, I feel. I said this. I think I said this in the little review we did after the movie. This movie was so encumbered by the shit that Ryan Johnson had saddled them with that the negative criticisms that a person would have on this movie were really aimed at The Last Jedi and not this one, because most of the things they had to do, as awkward as they may be, were because of the shitty position he put them in. And
Yeah.
they had in order to undo it, they had to do awkward things to get out of them, because that motherfucker had wrote him into a goddamn corner.
Right.
And how that son of a bitch got a budget to make Knives Out is beyond me. I wouldn't, if I was a producer, I wouldn't let the motherfucker in the fucking building. He'd be done. His career would be over. You need to go back to fucking Ohio and make fucking commercials or some shit. But
I'm going to be very interested to see how this movie performs.
40 million last night.
Was it 40 million?
Yeah, Thursday night, 40 million.
Okay.
So,
well, I'll be interested.
Positive side.
I will be interested to see how it's received among most fans.
It was the opposite. Excuse me. On Return of the keep saying Return of the Jedi. The Last Jedi, the Rotten Tomato score for critics was like high, and the audience was low.
Right.
And on this one, the Rotten Tomato score for critics is low, but the audience reaction is high.
Yeah.
So it's flipped. It's flipped. And I have to go with the audience on both of those counts, because the awkwardness with Kylo and Rey's relationship, because of The Last Jedi. The awkwardness about bringing the Empire, because of The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
The awkwardness of bouncing around for the first act, because of fucking The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
The awkwardness of Rose, Last Jedi. The awkwardness of romantic relationships, or not romantic relationships, because of The Last Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
The fucking awkwardness of Admiral Hux, Last Jedi.
Right.
You know what I mean? All these faults within this movie are because of that motherfucker.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting, too, as they were laying out the battle plan for the big third act, that they actually had in dialogue. Someone's going to explain, someone said, why don't we just do the Holdo thing on some of these? And no, we can't do that. And they explained that would be like a flea bite on an elephant. It's not going to do anything. Something like that. But it was explaining doing basically the kamikaze thing wouldn't work.
Right.
And I thought, that's Last Jedi. You had to put that in there.
Well, the biggest
Last Jedi put that into the universe, Star Wars universe.
The biggest fuck you to Ryan Johnson was Rey goes back to the island. She's going to let the Force die with her, and the Jedi die with her.
Yeah.
And Luke shows up. She's about to cast away her lightsaber, and Luke grabs it and says, "That's not how you treat your lightsaber."
So Ryan Johnson, he's been out there the past week and saying things like, you should. It's a mistake to give fans what they want. You should challenge them and all that. Like, I understand the idea of being predictable and sticking to a formula too much. I understand that. We all understand that. For the 100th billionth time, I'll try this one more time. I'm speaking for Star Wars fans everywhere. The issues we had with Last Jedi was you wrote a very poorly structured script. And from that, you also took characters who are icons and had them do things way out of their character. They've been established for decades. And you expect us to be happy about it. No. That's why we're upset. You know, it would have been okay for you to sit there and have Luke be down and write it that way, but at some point, he was supposed to join the fight. He could still die after rejoining the fight, but the idea is Luke does not quit. He rejoins the fight and could die heroically in rejoining, and it inspires Rey and the others to continue. That would have been a fine story, and that's what fans, I think, deserved, and that's what that character deserved. But we've gone over this ad nauseum, all the mistakes in terms of structure with Last Jedi. This film, it's one of those films that even I, maybe the second or third time, I might grow to accept some of the choices they make, and perhaps my 2.5 will turn into a 3-star, which is a positive rating. That's absolutely possible. I went in there as a fan, and it's one of those things where if I go see the new. Just pick a director, Tarantino or Nolan and all that. I'm a fan, but I'm a lot more like I'm more objective. Star Wars is one of those things where I'm not as objective because it goes back to my childhood, and I'm very biased because these are characters they're like your heroes. We know they're fictional, but you bring your biases to it. It's hard to watch and not be like, well, wait a minute, okay, you try to do some stuff here with Luke, but I still would have liked to have seen him, like you did with Leia, intervene, at some point, just a little more, so I could kind of get that Episode 8 bad taste out of my mouth,
Yeah.
But I know that's my problem. That's not J.J. Abrams' problem. That's my problem,
Yeah.
And so I try to give him some slack, because he was trying. I mean, the whole idea, the point you made about him grabbing the lightsaber, that's absolutely right. That was absolutely a major middle finger to Last Jedi to go, you shouldn't throw away, you shouldn't treat your weapon so poorly.
That's
or something.
not how you treat a...
Yeah, however the line was. But anyway.
No, he used the word respect. He's like, hey, treat your lightsaber with some respect, or
maybe, yeah, whatever it is.
Show the lightsaber some respect or something.
Yeah, but
yeah. Well, you said a comment. I've been letting you. I didn't want to stop your roll there, but you made a comment that I wanted to bookmark.
Okay.
You said Rian Johnson said, sometimes it's a mistake to give audiences what they want. Here's the problem with that in terms of Star Wars, dude. We haven't got what we wanted since 1983. Can you give us one thing?
Right. Yeah.
Well, why? Okay, you added. What did they do? They did something with they changed the ending, the Return of the Jedi. I think with the ghost things or whatever. They did something weird there. Oh no, it was later after the prequels. Then the prequels come out.
Okay.
Then the prequels come out, and you watch the first one. You're like, okay, that's weird.
Oh, by adding Hayden Christensen.
Yeah, it was later.
Yeah.
So
I'm with you.
And you get the prequels, and they didn't live up to any expectation. I mean, we wanted to see Darth Vader, tearing up the galaxy in the Clone Wars and everything.
Right.
It was like all this lead up to all this little kid shit and teenager stuff.
Right.
And like, well, this is not what we wanted. And George is like, well, sorry, that's what the story was made. And then you're like, well, what? And then you don't get what you want there. Then, Force Awakens comes, and you're like, okay, all right, everybody got mad because it's a retelling of a New Hope. It's fine. Okay, we'll take it. It's been like a few years since '83, and they've done something just positive, so let's just take it.
Yeah.
And then what do they do with Last Jedi? Now fuck you all over again. You're like,
yeah.
Rogue One, the ending of Rogue One was genius because what did it do? It delivered Darth Vader kicking ass. That's why Rogue One is special. It's a slow movie. It's too slow in stretches. I put it completely in the good side because it delivered. The third act of Rogue One's fantastic. It delivered. And like, other than moments, other than like a third act here or a scene there, since 1983, it's been one giant fuck you and no fan service.
Right.
So it's like, no, Doritos. You get a bag of Doritos. I've been on vacation. You've been on vacation.
Yeah.
I get Doritos here.
Yeah.
The good taste of Doritos. I go to Alabama. I go to Gulf Shores. That familiar good taste of Doritos. You know, it's okay to deliver an expectation to an audience. It's okay.
Right. Right.
Star Wars is a product. Just deliver a Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
Well, and to piggyback on your comments, I would say that right now Disney Plus has this show on, The Mandalorian. And we haven't really had a chance to talk to. I actually hadn't had to talk.
We can do a whole other Mandalorian.
We'll have to do a whole other Mandalorian show. But in short, I'm loving it. I think it's like this as a longtime Star Wars fan. Here's a show I have been wanting since 1983. This is what I have been wanting: is you to make something that's adult, not kitty. You know. All this kid stuff and G Willikers and that's Wizard. Like, no. Just come on now. We're Star Wars, the original Star Wars wasn't kiddified like this.
Right.
This movie, that show rather, delivers a really high bar of entertainment, and it's Star Wars, and I'm really enjoying it, and it's something I've been looking for over 20 years for them to do something like this. We were hoping that something like this would be, in terms of tone, that the prequels would do. But he decided to go all kid, like, I'm making it for 5-year-olds. And it's like, what? So that was disappointing. So you're right. It's been a long time coming. And we'll have more to say about Mandalorian later. But for me, that's a long time to wait. We've always had the original trilogy and disappointed in prequels, disappointed in, the Clone Wars. I just got through binging it, by the way, and enjoyed it so much just recently. The thing about it is the timing of when it came out, though, I resented it at all get out because remember that first movie?
It was horrible. I went and saw it. I was like, what the hell is this?
And then here's Anakin. And you're like, okay, well, it's a cartoon, but we can dive into, to the Clone Wars and Anakin's past. And next thing you know, you have this tag along.
Yeah, the
little girl. And here's your Padawan. And you're like, we just got through seeing a kiddified prequel. The last thing we want is more
teenagers.
Yes, we don't want you to double down on kiddified stuff. So it's a shame because the show itself ended up being really good, I will say, for what it is. But the timing sucked at a time where fans had it up to here with the kid-friendly shit and wanted something more like Lord of the Rings, that kind of adult theme, Yeah. And Mandalorian delivers on that, thank goodness. Yeah.
There's a constant thing, we're going to wrap the show up. There's a constant theme where George Lucas will introduce a kid into his material, like after it's not wanted. Like Raiders Lost Ark, which is really more the brainchild of George Lucas than Spielberg, even though Spielberg kind of gets the credit. The ideas and storylines have always been generated from Lucas. That's why you have the fucking crystal skulls. No one else wanted it but Lucas, and Lucas was the guy in charge. So
yeah, it's his baby.
It's his baby.
Yeah,
part of Lucasfilm. So that's why you make Raiders Lost Ark. Fucking amazing. It's one of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah, it is.
It's adult. When they shoot people, there's pieces of meat flying and blood and mist in the air and stuff. And at the end, they fucking melt people and shit.
Yeah, at one point, there's a guy literally on fire, broken, bloody nose, and he gets shot
in the face. He still gets shot in the fucking face.
Yeah.
So what did Lucas, in his ultimate wisdom, decide to do in the second one?
A little Asian boy with a baseball cap.
So there's this constant theme of like, why did you stick a fucking kid in here? He does it all the time.
Yeah.
Prequels. All right, the prequels. This is going to be the Clone Wars. This is going to be focused on Vader and the Clone Wars. Nope. Nope. Fuck you. We're gonna give you a little kid story, then the teenager story.
Well, I was hoping that the prequels would actually be like one movie where you saw like Anakin as a teenager or late teens.
Yeah.
But before he becomes Vader.
Yeah.
And you have that one movie, and then like at the end he falls, and then the next two movies he's Vader in the suit and just killing people.
Yeah.
Because that's what we expected,
I remember,
it's like we're going to see Vader in his glory period killing people.
I remember before Attack of the Clones came out.
That's interesting.
You and I both were like, at the end of this, he's going to be Vader. Just wait. At the end of this, he's going to be Vader. Nope. And then we're like, okay, this next one, he's going to be Vader at the beginning. So the first act's going to be him turning into Vader.
Yeah.
And the rest of the movie will be him Vader.
Nope.
All I can say is this. J.J. Abrams in his 2 movies tried to give us fan service. And honestly, we needed it, and we deserved it.
Sure.
So, I got no problem with this fan service criticism shit. Which is fan service. Fine, we deserved it. They fucked us over plenty of times. But there's enough give and take. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Oh, we want the original trilogy on digital. Well, I stuck it on a B disc and a DVD that was released 20 years ago. Hope you got that one. Fuck you. Oh, okay. Thank you. And by the way, it's in a Dolby Mono, and it doesn't have the opening A New Hope on it. It's just got the...
Yeah.
Okay, George. All right. You want to play this game? Be a fucking dick about everything. So, that's the reason I totally support these re-edits and the bootleg and stuff. Bootleg it. Just bootleg it. Go for it. They have it coming to them. Fuck them.
Also, with all these special editions, we don't talk about it, but the emphasis is always on the visuals that have been changed. Mm-hmm. The audio, he changed it. The audio mix this last go around like 5 years ago. So you're like, I'm used to hearing like certain music beats at certain points.
Yeah.
And you're like, well,
they come in late.
Now, instead of being on the foreground, it's in the background. Like, no. Where's that John Williams? You're like, dun, 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 dun. That kind of thing. And it's like way off in the back. Like, what? Wait a minute. Like, who did this mix?
Yeah.
It's weird and disappointing.
Well, I haven't watched it yet, but they say A New Hope on the Disney streaming. In the Han shoots first scene, for some reason Greedo out of nowhere goes like McCunkle or McClunker.
Yeah, I watched it.
McClunky.
Yeah, it's on Disney Plus. This new version.
McClunky.
Or
something.
I backed it up like 5 times to try to figure out what that's all about.
What did he say? McClunky.
It's like McClunky or something. You're like, what?
What? And like they added Vader shouting no when he throws the Emperor over, and you're like,
yeah, they did that sometime.
Like ago. I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't need that.
What? Well, final thoughts on. I'll edit out my rant, so you people won't see my rant. I went on. It'll have to be edited, but trust me, it was amazing. It was so passionate. Even he was like, "Really, dude, you need to calm down." It's whenever I can make that happen. Usually, because he's the one that rants, and he's like, "Jesus, I did it." So I feel a little good that they did it. Because, like, usually you get those. Yeah. Usually you're the one that goes like, "Wah!" So, yeah. I
don't know if that's good or bad, but I guess it's just, I'm passionate, so there you are.
I had a passionate fit, I guess you might say. I had a passionate fit. Final thoughts.
Okay, final thoughts.
Wrap up thoughts.
The Rise of Skywalker. I guess largely watchable, mediocre affair. Given time, I might warm up to it more. It's possible. Right now, I'm just kind of underwhelmed by it. But that could change. A lot was kind of riding on this movie, and I guess the sting of the episode 7, or episode 8 rather, was still very much on my mind. So we'll see. I may... 6 months from now, ask me then. But right now, underwhelmed.
Loved it. But I also give it a lot of grace because I knew how it was hamstrung. So it's that guy that I knew had a injury, but played the game anyway. And even though it's a quarterback, and he's like he can only turn in 180 yards and one touchdown and one interception, but they're like, dude, you killed it, man. Because I knew what the adversity he overcame to deliver that kind of a performance.
Right.
So that's how I feel. It's like my quarterback was injured, but he played anyway and gave me a so-so performance. And I'm like, yeah, dude, good job. That's how I feel about the movie. It's like, man, I'm really proud of you. You like had so much to overcome, and you delivered it, and you did the best you could. Good job. It's basically the Force Awakens with a knee injury. Is basically what it is. That's basically. It's the Force Awakens with a knee injury.
Okay.
So yeah, I find it to go. I thumbs up it, and I would give it a solid. I would say I would go 3.5. Yeah, I would go 3.5. I don't think I'll ever give it 4 because I mean it's just so hamstrung.
Yeah.
But I feel I think I like it a lot, and I think I'll keep on liking it. I don't know what to say now.
Yeah, I'm trying to allow that, I could warm up to it later. I mean, but right now, I'm just still disappointed. So, just being honest.
All right. Well, speaking of being honest, being honest and having a knee injury, I do.